I see a lot of friendly faces in the room. I'd like to acknowledge also Chase Bank. Brian's here. They are sponsoring our California Family Business Awards dinner this year for us. And this is the first year that our California Family Business Awards are an official university event. And so Chase Bank is going to help us make that happen. We have a lot of work to do for the next hour. This is about a 90-minute presentation, and I cut about 6 slides. So we're going to go at rapid fire pace through this presentation. Couple things to keep in mind. I am cool if you want to multitask, if you need to leave the room, if you need to check your phone. We're all business people. We get it. But when you have the opportunity and you're engaged in the moment, I am going to make you work. So the workbook in front of you is a companion. It is not the copy of the deck of the presentation. It is actually work. So if you do not have a writing instrument with you now, please raise your hand and we will get you one. Because Gary needs a writing instrument. Seriously, Rob?
I know, right?
Okay. I am. I'm calling you out. Who else? Thank you to our colleagues for backing us up. I know we do everything electronic these days, but there's something about writing things down, you know. There's a science behind writing it down and it sticks in your memory, right? So beating the big brands. So sometimes a family business is the big brand in their category, but that doesn't mean that you're without competition. But very often, you're not the big brand in your category. Very often, the family business is putting up a fight against some big corporate behemoth. And oftentimes, the corporate behemoth has structures and financing in place that allows them to keep beating the drum. And so you feel like you're always boxing up here, and they're just standing there like this, right? So there's some blocking and tackling we're going to talk about today, and some of this stuff you've heard before. Some of this stuff you've gone, oh yeah, somebody told me that 5 years ago, or yeah, I've heard about that, or I've done that. Maybe you have. What the power in the 8 steps really is doing it all together and creating a synergistic approach, because most companies fall down in taking care of all of these steps. And in many of your businesses, whatever role you might be in, I'm going to bet you that your role tends to be very operational, right? So a lot of times if you're the entrepreneur or you're the business owner, your role might be sales, your role might be operations, your role might be more finance, you might also wear the CFO hat, right? So what happens to marketing? Marketing is one of those daily tasks that you can go, oh, but you know, so-and-so called in sick today, or this piece of equipment broke down today, or these orders have to go out today, or the truck broke down, whatever. And that becomes your priority, and the marketing activities slip to the wayside for that day. And then the next day something else operational happens, or something financial happens, and then marketing becomes a bit of the stepchild. So again, none of this that I'm going to teach you today is brain surgery or proprietary, and probably a third of it you've heard before. But I'm going to encourage you to take some action steps today, write some things down, and then actually do them. And it'll be amazing what happens. All right, so we'll just get started. My goals today are, the first thing is to earn your attention. So as I said, if you have to take that call, if you leave and don't come back, I haven't achieved my goal. If you said you had to take a call and you don't come back, I haven't done a good job. I want to challenge your thinking. So at any moment in this next hour that you're thinking to yourself, that's BS, or I don't need that, I've achieved my goal. I'm challenging your thinking. And then I want to provide you with some action items. Follow along in your workbook with me today. I'll try to guide you through the pages. Try to make eye contact with me when you can. And please interrupt me with questions. I have a tendency to go very fast. Step 1, identification. Seems so simple, doesn't it? But oh, crap. I don't have presentation mode on here in my regular computer. So go to page 2, please, in your workbook. I've told you my goals. Now I need you to tell me at least one of your goals. What is one thing that you would like to get out of this presentation? If you have 3 goals, that's fantastic. But if you could just write one thing down that you would like to get out of this presentation. Maybe it's just one action item. Or maybe you have a burning question that you just want answered. Like, should I do Facebook? That's my favorite question people ask, right? What are your goals for today? It's really hot in here. Holy smokes. Okay. I haven't even had that much caffeine. Everybody got at least one? Okay, good. We'll keep moving. All right, step 1, identification. This is also known as your mission statement, your positioning statement, your brand statement, your elevator pitch. You've heard that before, right? We talk about this all the time, but we're really bad at doing it. What is it that we stand for? And it sounds a little bit easy, right? But there's actually 4 elements that you need to consider to include in your elevator pitch. I'm going to give you an example of a really good one. We're a local business that serves manufacturers who use our system to reduce their inventory costs by 50%. So if you're a business that carries inventory and you can reduce your inventory costs by 50%, do they not have your attention right now? Yeah, the Salters carry inventory, a lot of it. We have a patented method that delivers materials the day they're needed. So you're telling me you can reduce my costs and still deliver on speed? I'm interested, right? So they've told me a lot about who they are, what they do, who their target audience is, and what the benefit is to me. And that's the piece that people forget in their mission statement. You talk all about yourself, but you forget what's the benefit to my customer. So grab your book, page 3. We're rocking and rolling, putting you to work. Grab your pencil or your pen. We're going to briefly work on your elevator pitch. Now, it's not going to be pretty right now. You're just going to jot down words. Who are you? Who are you? Are you a small business? Are you a Fresno-based business? Are you Snowflake and you're a global business? Are you a family business? Is that important? Who are you? Are you a financial institution? Are you a ballistics company? Are you a media mogul? Gary. There's a lot of faces in here I don't know. I'm going to have to learn some of the other businesses that are in the room so I can pick on y'all too. What is it that you do? Fundamentally, what do you do? What is the core of your business? If you were to say, this is the business I'm in, what is it that you do? The next question is how? How do you do it? This is a hard one, right? They're getting harder. How do you do it? This could be anything. Do you do it because you own your own trucks and that's how you are able to do it faster? Do you do it through technology and software, proprietary software? Do you do it with passion, just driving hard, and that's how you do it? How do you do it? And then the last piece is why. Why do you do it? Most entrepreneurs don't do it for the paycheck, although it is a means to sustaining a family. But oftentimes there's something else. So who, what, how, why? So hopefully you've jotted a couple of notes down. And if you read it in straight order, it probably wouldn't sound very good. But you have in front of you the fundamentals. If you don't already have an elevator pitch, you have the fundamentals for one sitting in front of you. At my company, we're an advertising agency. Oh, sorry, I just hit the mic. Sorry, I'm a rookie. That's just reviewing what they did well. Let's review. What did they do well? They're a local business that serves manufacturers. That's who they are. People use their system to reduce their inventory costs by 50%. That's the why. That's the why somebody would do it. They have a patented method. That's the how, right? And they deliver materials the day that they're needed. I'm going to share with you ours. Am I going the wrong way? Okay, here we go. So at JP Marketing, we're working on ours. We just recently repositioned our brand. We changed our logo, because we can, and changed our tagline. And right now, this is our current elevator pitch, right? And I have to get it to the point where I can stand literally in an elevator, and when somebody asks, what do? I can answer it, and it can roll off the tongue, right? But basically, we're a band of passionate experts, right? I don't want to say I'm a full-service advertising agency. That's snooze fest. That's really what we are, is a full-service advertising agency. But really, it's the people that make my company, right? So we're a band of passionate experts, and we're really good at what we do. And we move brands from point A to point B. I'm not saying I'm going to grow your company. I'm not saying I'm going to make your company this or that. Where you're starting at A and where you want to be at B, B might be you want to sell your company, right? So B is defined by the client, not by me. We use proprietary research tools and give a crap attitudes. Yes?
Why did you change your logo?
Partly is me because I get bored. And partly because our logo had kind of an infinity symbol, JP, in the middle. And with the digital world now, when that logo is small, it was hard to read. It was hard to see. And so we went through, when we moved our office, we went through a logo evolution process. So we ended up retaining the red circle. So the red circle's exactly the same. I felt there was some brand equity in the circle, but we changed the font so that it's readable at a small size. What?
That's the new logo?
This is the new logo. Yep. And our goal, why do we do it? Why do we do what we do? To serve and sustain families. And for me, serving and sustaining families is my employees' families and my clients' families, right? So for me, I serve both. So that's my why. Your why and your what and your how are going to be totally different and unique to you. Now here's the trick. I've been working on this in my head. I'm still working through this. It's getting closer. It's starting to roll off the tongue better. But you can't stop there. Now you have to share it. You can't just keep it inside, right? You have to apply this to all internal and external. If you turn to page 4, I've made a list for you. Hi, Lorraine. I've made a list for you of all of the potential places and people that need to know this elevator pitch. And it's a long list, but it should be pervasive. It should be everywhere. It should be the fabric of your organization, right? I mean all of these places, no cheating. And you can check on me in a couple months if you want and see how compliant I am with my own rules, because once I've got this thing wired down, I need to do the same thing. I've seen people put it on their e-signatures, on their receipts and statements. It should be everywhere. And your employees, most importantly, and your family members, even if your family members don't work in the business, they should understand this. They should understand why you exist. Okay? Let's move on to step 2. This is a biggie for me. I call this protection. How protected is your brand? There's 2 areas. First is your trademark, and the second is your brand guide. How are you treating that logo and that brand guide? Okay? If you turn to page 5, I am going to disclaim right now that I am not an attorney and this is not legal counsel. Okay? My attorney makes me say that. But if you don't have your business name and your logo trademarked, you're making a huge mistake. Do it tomorrow. You can't do it today because I don't know if your attorney works past 6 o'clock. Or if you need reference to one, I can send you to one. I'm going to tell you about the story of the G. This is my client for the last 15 years, Grupetti Automotive in Visalia. This is Gottschalks. Okay? So, about 2 years before Gottschalks went under, their advertising agency took this G. This is a typical G. This is just a G in your regular font family that you could type in your computer right now. Grupetti, when they started advertising back in the 90s, the newspaper, the Visalia Times Delta, made their logo for them. And they just used a font, and in fact, I can show you the rest of it. This is really what it looks like. Gottschalks took this G, kind of tweaked it a little bit, cut this little tail off, and made it a circle, and then trademarked it. Okay? Then issued a cease and desist against my client, Grupetti Automotive, who'd been using that mark for 15 years. And said, you can't use that mark anymore because the first person to trademark it owns it. It does not matter how long you've been using it or where it came from. Okay? So we were able, back and forth between attorneys, to carve out Tulare County that he could use this G in Tulare County, but he could not use it anywhere else, even though he had plans to buy dealerships in other markets at the time. And Gottschalks owned it throughout the rest of the country. Right? Big deal. Right? Nobody wants those attorney's bills. And so if you don't have your logo trademarked now, please do it. I always encourage people, if they're launching a product or a company, if you're a serial entrepreneur, you can go to this website, uspto.gov. Make sure you go to .gov and not .com. .gov, it should be free to look this up. And you'll do a trademark search. You can type in names, you can scan in marks, and you can see if there's somebody that already has it. Okay? Or you can file yourself, or you can hire an IP attorney. And this is my recommendation. The first thing you want to do is file your name as your name only. Don't claim a font, don't claim a design, just your name. Because if you ever change your logo, like I do, your name is still protected and you don't have to refile. Okay? Then you want to trademark your brand mark without your name. So you'll see my little trademark here. Just this is filed, and it's filed in black and white. Or you can do it in grayscale, and I'll tell you why. I recommend you don't file in color, because when you file in color, you are claiming color as part of your brand mark. As soon as you claim color as part of your brand mark, and then in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, you decide to have fun and make it pink, you are no longer protected with your trademark because you claimed red, and now you have it in pink. If you claim it in black and white or in grayscale, you own it in every color. Okay? Your brand mark with the name, if it's stylized, you might want to consider that. And then we also have some clients that they brand mark their taglines as well, right? So Snickers or whatever, their taglines, all of their taglines, Coca-Cola, you can go online, they own 1 billion trademarks because every campaign slogan, every tagline, they trademark, and then you can't use it, which is awesome. So you could do the same. Highly recommend it. Let's talk about brand guidelines really quick. So once you've locked up your logo and your name and you're totally protected there, then you want to look at your brand guidelines. So nothing kills me more than to see companies not protect their logo, right? So let's say you are putting graphics on the side of your truck, and you email the logo to the local printer that's going to put the graphics on your truck, and for whatever reason they decide that the magnet for your truck is this big and your logo is this big, so they just stretch it to make it as big as possible. Now all of a sudden your logo is distorted. And maybe that doesn't bother you too much, but it bothers me a lot. And it should bother you, okay? So the beautiful thing about having brand guides, and I'm going to show you a really extensive one, but the beautiful thing about having a brand guide is if you have that and you have it, let's say in a PDF, and you send it to the guy that makes your shirts or the gal that makes your signs or the person that's doing your vehicle wraps or the people that are printing your business cards, all you have to do is email them your logo and your brand guide. And if they get your color wrong or they stretch it or whatever and you're not happy, they got to do it again for you because you gave them the instructions, okay? And the instructions should be very clear. This is one we did, so we did this logo for SANDAG, which is the San Diego Association of Governments, for their 50-year bike region plan. And they had a really hard time coming up with the logo, but we finally got one. And once they got it, again, this is super extensive, but these are the types of things that you can include in your brand guide. Most of our client brand guides are about 5 pages. This one's about 20. So this talks a little bit about the purpose of the guide and who the contact is if you have any questions about usage, what the program is, the language we want people to use, the personality of the brand, and the types of target audiences. This is the color wheel. So this is the brand mark itself. These are the Pantone colors, the font families, and the secondary colors. These are the different ways you can use the logo. Stacked, which is important now for social media, versus a horizontal. This is how it is encapsulated. This is how you can use it over an image, right? So we don't want the image showing through, so it either needs to be solid gray or solid green. A lot of information here. If there's a tagline, this is how it has to live. This is how it can live in reverse. This is the space that we want around the logo. This is the minimum size allowed, 20 millimeters. This is what not to do with the logo. Don't stretch it. Don't put it on black. Don't put drop shadows on it. Don't turn it on its side, right? Color palette. This was a fun one because we really didn't know what colors would work with kiwi green and gray. And so we actually solicited photographers to take pictures in the region, and then we pulled colors from literally the color palette of the 4 topographical regions within San Diego County. So that was fun. And so that's how we built the color palette. This is way too much information for you, but maybe you have a design background. So all of your colors should have 3 choices. So actually this has 4. You have your PMS color, which is your Pantone color. Then you have your CMYK, you have your RGB, and you have your HTML, which is your hex color. So that green in this logo, you can imagine, looks completely different on a computer screen versus in a print ad. And so you can control for all those things. These are all the different fonts. You have to have certain fonts for Microsoft Office or the web because these fun fonts don't work. This is image direction. We want people with helmets. We want people sitting up, properly using their bike, properly strapped in. We do not want photos of people doing crazy things in the ads or bikes with no people. We don't want that. This is how you might apply the logo. So we built this so that it was an answer to a question. Going to the store, go buy bikes, so the logo actually became a part of the campaign. Copywriting, this is copy direction. What infrastructure would look like, what it looks like painted on the ground. Signage, this is just outreach stuff. This is a special campaign. This is billboards. What is this, print ad? That's more outreach. This is how it lives with other programs in the region. So that's a lot, right? That's a really, yes, you have another question?
Yeah.
You're just full of questions, Ron.
This is in San Diego, right?
This is in San Diego. It's one of our more in-depth brand guides.
Out of curiosity, how a person in Fresno, a company in Fresno, got the job for San Diego?
You know what? We'll sidebar that because I still have a lot of steps to go through. We'll sidebar that. But we do a lot of rescue work. We were the 3rd agency on this project. So, and that happens to us a lot when they can't seem to. They had 22 people in the room to pick a logo. That's way too many people, but we've done that 3 times. Once was a physician group where there was 21 physicians in the room and we had to pick a logo. This was 22 stakeholders. Those are really hard groups, and 2 agencies before us had failed. So anyway, word gets out. When you've been doing it long enough, word gets out. Yeah. So we do a good job at rescue. Do I have anything? So some things in your book you'll see on there to think about in terms of your brand guidelines. That's a little overview for you. I think one of the most important things on the bottom of page 6 is to have somebody who's sort of watching. I wrote on here brand manager. It's not a nice word, but we all often call them brand Nazis. Like, it's that person in the company that's like, that logo's sweet, that can't go out like that. You kind of need somebody like that who's kind of like bird dogging and watching, making sure everything's good. Okay, I really keep skipping ahead, don't I? Okay, competition. Let's talk about competition. This is a really, really important step 3. And it's one of my favorite steps, but you also can't obsess over it, right? Okay, so let's talk about your competition. I really encourage you to pick 3 strategies from this that you use in your competition management strategy. Because if you spend too much time worrying about your competition, you're not spending enough time worrying about your own business, right? So one thing you can do is study and stalk them, right? You can ask around. You can just flat out compete, just go head to head with them, right? You can stop obsessing, just ignore them completely and just do your thing and don't worry about it. And then you can do a variety of these things at various intervals. If you turn to page 7 in your workbook, these are some really good strategies for gathering intel on your competitors. I do encourage our clients to look at competitors. Many of our clients do a really good job at it. Sometimes we will also take a look at what the competitors are doing. And there's some really easy ways to do it now. So here's ways you can gather intel. You can go to their website, look at their advertising, go on their social media, check their online directories. This is a really good one. Go on Yelp, go on yellowpages.com, see what they've got posted there. Sign up for their newsletters. Well, I love that one. Customer feedback. How many times have you had a customer come to you and tell you all kinds of stuff about your competitor? Probably because they were unhappy, but spend the extra 2 or 3 minutes and ask them some really good questions. You'll get really good information. Vendor reps love to yap. So if you have reps of any kind in your business, in our business, we have media reps. If you give them 15 minutes, they will spill the beans on all your competitors and what's going on in the marketplace. So it's an opportunity. Secret Shop. There is a new app. Did you and I talk about this? There is a new app where you can secret shop your competitors, but it's user generated. Can you make a note, Alexa, so I don't forget to follow up? I'll follow up anybody that's interested. It's not coming to me right now, but there's an app where you go online. So have any of you used Uber before? And it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in New York City, and you can call an Uber from your phone, and they'll show up, right? This is the same thing with Secret Shop. Oh, I know who knows. Julie from Marketing Plus. That's who told me about this. You can get on your phone, and let's say you have a retail location in Bakersfield, and you don't want to run down there. Just like Uber, you go on there and you post the Secret Shop job, and you say, I'm going to pay you $5 to run in there and take a picture of the display. Or I'm going to pay you $20 and I'm going to have you engage in a transaction and get all the way to the point of sale. So it's just like Uber. You can literally hire a Secret Shop right now, right here, today. And you can check on things, right? iSecret Shop, is that what it's called? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's awesome, right? So the Secret Shop programs used to be really expensive, and you had to sign these long-term contracts, and they would deploy people in these markets, and you would get so information back. Now you literally just post it on there, and people will sign up to Secret Shop on your behalf, and it all's through an app now. It's fantastic.
You get paid if you go and
The surveyors get paid. Yeah, and you post how much you'll pay for that information. So the person I got this information from, she works with a lot of produce people, and they ship displays. Like they'll ship displays to Whole Foods and Fig Garden Village, and let's say the client's in Bakersfield, and nobody has time to go check on the display in Whole Foods, but they want to make sure Whole Foods put it up. They'll post on there $5, $10, whatever. All you have to do is run over there and take a picture and post it in the app, and it automatically goes to your account, right? So a college kid could easily be like, heck yeah, I'll run over there and take a picture right now and make $10, right? And now they have their proof that the display was put up as it was. And when you're in 30 grocery stores throughout the Central Valley, it's a lot easier to do that than to send an employee out. That's way more costly. So the Secret Shop thing's a cool thing, but you can get more extensive with it. You can actually ask them to engage in a sales process and pay them a little bit more, right? And then you have them report back the intel, right? What products were there? What were the price points? Were you greeted? Right? What's the information you want to know on your competitors? Do you want them to call and try to get a quote over the phone? Any kind of Secret Shop. It's really valuable information, right? And then pick up their brochures and collateral if you see them at trade show, wherever you might see them, pick up their stuff. Any other ways you've ever gathered intel that I don't have listed here? Anything sneaky? Right? What do you do, Fred?
Well, actually, we hired a company called Bain, and they would call the company and they would talk to an engineer and say, well, I'm doing work for, I was a college student and I'm doing a survey or whatever, and ask all these questions and give them a lot of really strategic information. Just go and go to somebody who just said, I'm a student and I'm working on a project, and that's the way some of the bigger companies work. They're pretty bold.
Yeah, that is pretty bold, and it's unfortunate that the employee didn't know, that maybe some of that information they shouldn't share, right? If it's trade secret, but regardless, this information is valuable, right? And then you have to decide, what are you going to do with this information, right? And so if you go to your next slide, I'm going to have you do at least one competitor. So I'm going to walk you through the process. But it's good to keep an eye on your top 2 or 3 competitors. So let's do one really quick. I'm going to have you fill in the blanks. So competitor number 1, who are they? Right? So just write them in there. And this box may be too small, but let's talk about what are they doing. Are they doing web advertising? Are they doing TV advertising? Are they doing outbound sales? Are they hiring? Are they firing? What's going on with them right now? Are they doing social media? Are they active? Are they going to every trade show on the planet? What are some of the types of things that they're doing? And then the big question is, how are they doing it? Are they doing a good job? Are they doing it on a shoestring? Or they appear to be really well funded? Does it look haphazard? Are they inconsistent? And then the last box, as you sort of think about it, how do you compete? And your answer may be, I don't. Right? Don't assume that you have to compete. You have to keep an eye on them. But I've seen companies make crazy decisions because they feel like they need to compete. Or companies that say, well, they're doing this and this, and I see them in newspaper and I hear them on the radio, and so I'm going to do that too. Is that really that's not a very good strategy. We'll get into a little bit of strategy in a little bit. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's what's right for you or where your audience even is. What am I stepping on? Maybe the way you compete is personal, right? Maybe one way you compete is once a quarter. Actually, we talked about this. Maybe once a quarter you get on the phone and you make a personal call to all your major clients, right? Just say, hey, I just want to thank you for your business. We're having a really good quarter, and I know you're a big part of that. Just wanted to thank you. If there's anything I can ever do for you, please give me a call. How cool is that in this world of email and social media posts, right? We have a client right now we're working with, and they're a global company, and they have decided that it's their mission to make every client relationship personal. And they're a tech company, so they sell software solutions. But their goal is to make sure that you know somebody in the organization personally, and that you have a deep personal relationship with them, because they don't have the budgets their competitors have. Their competitors are outspending them 3-to-1. And how often do you feel like you're that person? How often do you feel like you're being outspent 3-to-1? Or you know you are being outspent 3-to-1, right? So what are you going to do that's different that they're not going to do? How do you compete? Maybe you can't compete by outspending them. So what can you do? Better service. Better service. And better service is personal. It's relationships. That is one huge way to compete. I know some of you do that. Some of you are on the road all the time.
We're also creating a position for our son-in-law that's going to be just to cater to the big accounts. So we've realized always that's been important, but now that we're even busier than ever, we're like, we better actually pull him off the road and give him time
to nurture the relationships.
Because like you said, every day is pulling. When there are emergencies, if you don't cut out, if we don't carve that out for him, his schedule's too busy.
Mm-hmm. And you know, people, sometimes you can compete on price, you know, but more and more in today's world, it's really hard to do that. You know, when I first got in this business 20 years ago, you'd write a 5-year marketing plan, and you just execute the 5-year marketing plan, and price might be part of your competitive strategy. But it's so hard to do that anymore. I don't have a single client anymore that can compete on price, and somebody else isn't going to come in and undercut them. It's impossible. You can't survive. Long term, you can't survive. Okay? Challenge you to finish that chart after this work session. Digital footprint. Now it's going to get fun. Ready? Okay. Go to page 9 in your workbook. We're going to talk about your digital footprint and taking ownership of this as well. So we've talked about your trademarks and your brand. Now we're going to talk about how that lives on the World Wide Web. Easy for me to say. I haven't even had any wine. So the first thing, we're going to talk about 4 things. We're going to talk about your URLs and your website hosting. We're going to talk about your social media pages. We're going to talk about online directories, and we're going to talk about reputation management. So let's go through this in your workbook. The first thing you want to do is own your URL and your website hosting. We have many clients where we have bought their URL for them and then put up their website and help them through the process, and have worked to then transition those over so that the business owners own those. So if you have a third party that helped you with your website or set up your URL, or maybe you have multiple URLs and they're cheap, so buy them, right? Own them. Make sure those are all in your name. It's just good business. You can go to this website, whois.com, and check. If you don't know if you own it or not, go check. And it'll tell you right on there who the administrator is, which could be a third party, and then who the owner is. Okay? This is,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes.
Just because I deal with a lot of companies, some people don't have websites. And you just address the fact that someone, in my mind, researching anything, looking for a company to do business with, they don't have a website. And we deal with that here, I think, more locally than a lot of stuff, but some people don't have websites for their companies.
yeah.
And that's, maybe you're against the internet or something like that, but it's more just keeping your marketing and that image on a place that everyone's looking for stuff. So not having a website is a big deterrent.
It's a big deal. I didn't think to step that far back.
Yeah, no,
I was already under the assumption everybody had one. You make a good point, though. So we have, I met with a potential client yesterday, and they make cheese. Okay, and they have a website for their Hispanic cheeses, and then they have this other product that's like a gourmet product, and it's not in the Hispanic line at all, right? And so they have this gourmet product, and so we said, well, how have you, and it's not doing well. And I said, so how have you marketed it? And they said, oh, we've gone to trade shows, and we went to San Francisco, and we went to the fancy food show. And we had people sample the product, and everybody loved the product, and they said it was fantastic, but we didn't get any sales from it. And I said, okay, so what was your follow-up process? Well, come to find out, they didn't do any follow-up, and they don't have a website. So what's the first thing? Think about it. When you go home from a trade show, you go home with a pile of stuff, right? You got to at least call me and follow up, right? But I'm going to probably go check you out. And what's the most convenient way to check somebody out as a website? That kind of blows my mind, but there are businesses that don't have websites, you're right. And it's really important. It is a bit of an investment. I keep waiting for the Yellow Pages to die. I hope there's not somebody in here that owns the Yellow Pages. But, the printed book is, at some point, is going to phase out, and the only tool people will have for searching will be online. So right now, you still can use the Yellow Pages.
It
but
adds to your legitimacy. If we
100%.
and they don't have a website, we don't business.
And it's not necessarily your customers looking for your partners, vendors, something like that, trying to just get to know your company and understand it. If that basic isn't on there, that maybe deters them.
Yeah. What we do have an issue with more so than not having websites is we have clients that have old websites. And so for those of you that don't know, Google's algorithm, which is super secret, now has a mobile factor in there. So they claim that 63% of their Google searches are done on phones now. And so if your site is not mobile responsive, they're going to start pushing you down in the results farther and farther and farther to the point that you won't be on the home page. So if that's important to you, then you definitely want to look at investing in a mobile website. We like to tell clients that your website is like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? So you start at one end, and you start painting, and you're painting and painting and painting, and when you get to the end, guess what? You got to go start at the beginning again, right? So your website is not like a printed brochure. We used to think about it that way, that you would build your website once and you don't touch it for 5 years. Not the case anymore. Technology moves way too fast. And so your website should always be evolving as well. So, and really, even a couple of years ago, we were saying a website had a life cycle of about 3 years, but that's even speeding up now because the technology is changing. Anyway, link your credit card and your email to your URL and your web hosting so that you or a trusted person in your organization is getting the emails when your URL is up for renewal or your hosting is up for renewal. Because if your third party who built your website is getting those emails and they're out of business or that person doesn't work there anymore, all of a sudden your website goes down because you didn't pay your hosting fees or your renewal fees. It's a problem. Social media pages. Oh, I did have a little bit more information on here, but for the most part, most reliable services now have backup redundancies. If that's not something you've ever said before for your website and your website's important, talk to your provider or your hosting service and make sure they have backup redundancies. Social media. Whether you are using your social media or not, you need to claim your pages or your handles. Okay? You can claim them and not activate them. You can claim your Facebook page and not turn it on. You can hide it. We really encourage this because at the point you decide, oh, I guess I should do it, now somebody else has taken your name. Okay? It's nice when the names can be same across the board, but it's not the end of the world if they're not. So claim your Facebook page. You would be surprised. People that don't claim their Facebook page, somebody else, a customer or somebody else will claim it. And then you got to deal with figuring out how to get it back. Okay? You want to eliminate user starter pages. Once you claim yours, if there's other user pages, you can create a trouble ticket and get those taken down by filing some complaints. And then try to determine what platforms your customers are on and then be there. And it does vary, but there's a lot, right? There's Pinterest, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's a lot of them. Again, I would try to talk you into using at least one and doing at least one well, but if it's not your gig, at least claim the names.
Would you say Facebook is the number one?
Depends on your target. Yeah, so like if you're a B2B target, I might do Twitter instead. You know, it really, really, really depends. Yeah, we do have a lot of clients that utilize Facebook, but oddly enough, you know, depending on the target, like Snowflake Designs, they sell leotards, right? Sell them around the world. Their Pinterest pages actually do really well, and their Instagram does really well because it's a visual product, right? And it's preteens, right? So you really have to think about what's your audience.
I'm amazed. We just set up Facebook because I came to a workshop here one day and they said, you know, I didn't feel we needed that we have a website, but I didn't feel we needed Facebook for our business. But I said that because I think the thing that says we got to do. And I'm amazed how many hits we get on it because I'm the administrator. So I get an email. I post a job and all of a sudden it'll say overnight 14 people went to your Facebook. And I'm like, really? Just because I posted the job? We go to a trade show for all sorts of people. We go to a trade show where we're not, but we're giving out our business cards. All of a sudden, all sorts of action. So I mean, it surprises me, even though we didn't intend. We thought we don't need it for what we do. I didn't feel we needed it, but it sure sees a lot of action.
It's a great way to share information with your clientele. We've got 45,000 people
On Facebook, yeah. Yeah, they have a ton.
We've bought from them. My girls were dancers. I love your stuff.
Ron? Wait, I have a question in the back from Ron.
What is your business? The one.
Salters?
We're a distribution company, but we sell wholesale straight to the stores. And we didn't figure that many more people are really looking to our Facebook. It just didn't hit us as that's our market. It's not like we're retail.
Okay,
But-
got it.
But it gets a lot.
I tried when Facebook, you know, 3 or 4 years ago when Facebook was still really new and a lot of people hesitant. It's still one of the fastest growing platforms out there globally, right? You don't do $1 billion IPO and not figure out how to get more customers and monetize, right? So there's a business plan behind what Facebook is up to. So 3 or 4 years ago when I used to talk about Facebook, I used to talk about it as today's water cooler, right? So people used to stand around the water cooler and share information. Or, you know, they'd hang out at coffee time after church, right? And that's where they would share information. Oh, I had hernia surgery. Oh, what doctor did you go to? Oh, my aunt needs a doctor. Who did you, right? And so those are the types of conversations that would happen. Or you play bridge with your friends or whatever, right? Like those were conversations used to happen. And it just so happens that now those conversations happen digitally. Right? And so you, as the company, can engage in those conversations. I'm telling you, the last 3 home improvements I've purchased, major, like solar, flooring, and what was the other one? Painting. I posted online. Who of my friends have recommendations? And then whoever got the most votes was the top 3 companies I called. Based on, and my trusted friends, like which friend I really trusted did their due diligence. They got a few more points for whoever they posted. But that's how I didn't go to the Yellow Pages and I didn't do a Google search. I posted on Facebook, hey, any friends out there can recommend a good painter, So,
And a lot of people will tag your business if you haven't paid
yep,
in those comments.
absolutely. Let's talk about online directories. So that's social media. Let's talk about online directories. This is different, but it's a part of your digital footprint. So these are things like Yelp.com. If you're a restaurant, Urban Spoon, you might care about. Yahoo, Yellow Pages, your local chamber listings, right? Foursquare was popular for a little while. It's not anymore. There's a lot of what we call online directories where your business is listed. I have a little cheat sheet for you. Here, did I put? Yeah, it's in your book on page 10. If you go to yext.com, this is another free service. Don't pay. Don't put your credit card in. If you just go to this website and you type in your business name and your business phone number, it's going to give you about 100 results of online directories. Only stress about the top 10 or 15. Don't worry about all of them, right? Because some of them are pretty obscure. But if you look at about the top 10 or 15, it's going to tell you where your inconsistencies are and where your listings are not as robust as they could be. So do you have photos? Do you have special offers? Does the address look right? Or are all the addresses amongst all of your listings different? Is that good or not good? Are your phone numbers different? You may use different phone numbers. You may have done that intentionally for tracking purposes, right? It's going to show you where you're deficient on what online directory listings, and then you got to go to work. Then you got to go update those or get somebody in your company to do it, right? So the next thing you want to do is prepare materials in advance of updating. On page 10, this is the second column on the right, okay? This is super important. This is a big job. I'm going to tell you this is going to take about 3 hours of your time to update 10 online directories. It'll take 8 hours if you're not prepared, okay? So what you want to do is you want to get your brand mark or get your logo ready in a JPEG or PDF form. You want to get your address, phone, and URL. This sounds intuitive, right? But you gather up all this stuff. Get some photos, exteriors, people, interiors, products. Get them gathered up. Get at least 5 or 6 photos. Maybe you have videos. Grab those too. You want to write a short description. Think Twitter. Think about 140 characters for your short description. That who you are, what you do, as short as possible. And then a long description. That could be your elevator pitch or even a little bit of a longer description. The other thing that I would include in your long description is a bullet list of the products or services you offer. And that bullet list could be long, right? This all helps with SEO, right? So keywords that people look for to find you. So create a bullet list, and that's a part of your long description of all the services you provide. And then maybe a special offer. So you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to discount products or I don't want to fight on price or whatever. That's cool. Maybe it's something you already do. For example, at our agency, if you think that you need help, we'll sit down with you for an hour and we'll have a conversation and we'll talk about things we maybe could help you with or things we could do. And we don't charge for that, right? Most consultants, most B2B businesses don't charge for that hour or even 2 hours, right? But the average consumer maybe doesn't know that. So if you go on and you search us on Yelp or yp.com, if you go on and search us, my special offer is 1 hour free consultation. I'm going to do it anyway, right? But it allows me to complete my online directory and make it the most robust. What does that do? When you go to yelp.com, I'm going to come up higher in the results because I have the most robust directory listing. And I don't pay for directory listings. You can, but I don't. Because every time you turn around, you're going to have another directory wanting $20 a month or $30 a month, and pretty soon you're paying $500 a month just so your ad could come to the top. If you do a really robust listing and you invest the time to do this and make sure they're consistent across the board, you'll be good. And then schedule time or schedule someone to revisit quarterly. Another thing that you can do, and this is not in your book, Has anybody ever heard of Google notifications? You heard of that? Okay. You can go on Google and you can turn on Google notifications or Google search Google notifications. And every time your company name or I have my personal name in there too, anytime it's mentioned anywhere in the world, you will get an email notification. Okay?
I also do it
Super
for
cool.
competitors.
Oh, that's good. Do your competitors too? Yeah.
I want to see what's going on in their
See what
world.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Google notifications. This is important if somebody posts a negative review. So if you're not checking your review pages all the time and somebody posts a negative review about you and you have Google notifications on, you'll get that notification that they mentioned your name. And you may, depending on how your business model is and how you handle those, I always encourage, if you can, to follow up with those negative reviews and then ask them to change it, right? So, and you'd be surprised at how many people do, right? So we handle BMW Fresno. People love them and people hate them. And the people that hate them really bad, like emotionally hate them. And so people either post a 5 or a 1. There's really no in between. And every time they post a 1, our team monitors, and we send it to the management immediately. And we screenshot it. Generally the dealership knows who this person is because the person's made a lot of noise at the dealership, right? And so they call the person and they say, please come back in. The GM is going to meet with you. We're going to try to work this out. Our goal, they say it right up front. We've had to train them. Our goal is to get you from a 1 to a 5 on your review. They say it right out loud, transparent, right? Set the meeting with the GM. They come in. They already are in the mindset that that our goal is to get you to a 5, right? And so it takes the pressure off, right? I'm not up for a fight. I'm up to get my 5. I'm here to get my 5, right? And you'd be surprised how many we get to go back on and change the review when you ask. If you can fix the problem, which 9 times out of 10, half of it's just venting, right? And then the other half might be fixing it, right?
How do you deal with teenagers going on and doing reviews now, giving you a 1? It's their equivalent, I've heard, of doorbell ditching. They go onto your sites and they give teenagers. What do you do with that?
Can you make secret shoppers pay their houses?
I guess you would know their shipping address. You know what?
They weren't even customers.
Oh, they weren't.
They will come on and give you a review of a 1 and never say why, but I've learned from other teenagers this is their equivalent of doorbell ditching.
This is a new one for me.
Okay.
If they're doing it on Facebook, you can file a complaint. Where are they posting the negative
I've had
review?
a lot on Facebook.
Okay.
I've filed complaints and it does no good.
Okay. We may want to look at that.
Restaurants have that all the time, have that all the time. You could have taken care of the problem, or the issue at the restaurant, give them great customer service, they can say something really grand, and then they go and write what we call a 1-star assassin.
Restaurants seem to be the worst target.
I've seen it happen.
So, we engage the guests, we answer all the negative reviews, we engage the guests. And then they don't change it. You still cannot make them happy. So then you try to re-engage them, and then they block them.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do in a situation like that?
There's not a lot you can do. We go the counter when we end up in situations like that. And if you go on BMW's Google reviews right now, they're like at a 3, because obviously we haven't been able to get everybody to change. The only way to do it is to counterattack and get as many people as you can to post 5s. And so we just go on the offensive and we make everybody in the service department ask customers while they're sitting there waiting for their car if they would please go on and post a positive review and literally just go on the offensive to push that review down or to get your average back up. On Yelp, that's the only way to do it on Yelp, is to get enough positive reviews to push that down. Otherwise, those 1s stay at the top. Kayleen?
Shane, how do you go about, because there's so many different review sites.
Yeah.
And it affects your SEO and all of that
Yep.
good stuff. What's your asking strategy? This is where I'm going to ask Yelp, and this is where I'm going to ask TripAdvisor, and perhaps, I mean, is there an answer?
There's not. We typically will recommend 3. So like at BMW Fresno, there's 3 that we focus on, and then we ask the customer if they already have an account. Because like on Yelp, you have to have an account to post a review. And many of them you have to have an account. And so these are the 3 places we love to host reviews. Do you happen to have an account with one of those? Then it's the path of least resistance for the customer. If they say, oh, I already have a Yelp account, we would love a Yelp review. Makes it easier. I already have a Facebook account. Fantastic. We'd love a Facebook review. Same with Google. Oh, I already have a Google account. Fantastic. And then make it easy for the customer. So they don't have to, I always hate asking if they don't have an account, they have to set one up. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
Does the Google notifications require you to have a Gmail account?
No.
No.
Nope. It's all really part of their big brothering, you know, but we use it to our advantage. Let's talk about reputation management, which we've already been doing. That content doesn't look right. Reputation management is the reviews that we've been talking about. So it's page 11 on your workbook. So soliciting reviews should be a part of your business strategy. Again, I know it's one more thing to do. Some of them happen naturally. I am always, if you're a business to business, when I solicit reviews, I do it in an exchange. So I will reach out to a vendor or I'll reach out to a client and say, I would love to post a positive review for you. Would you mind doing it in return for me? And then you generally will get compliance. And for a B2B customer, you really only need a couple. You know, if you could get 3 to 5 a quarter, you're doing great. Retail businesses, there's going to be a lot more action on that. So if you're a restaurant, if you're a retailer, you're going to have a lot more action on your reviews. But always ask. Ask for them. You're going to get way more success in asking for them. All right. Customer profiles. I'm only on 5, so I got to get moving. All right, customer profiles. This is really a really important step. We learned this strategy about 15 years ago. We had a client in Fresno. They were the first, it was the Morano family, and they opened the first Applebee's in California. It was right in Fig Garden Village. Used to be in the old Farrell's. Some of you might remember. It's Chase Bank now. They opened 9 Applebee's in the Valley. They sold them, and the son decided to go open restaurants called Ztecas in Kansas. And he came to us and he said, I love you guys. I've loved being a partner, you helping us with our marketing, but I really think it's in my best interest to go hire a local agency in Kansas City because they're going to know that area better. And we said, we couldn't agree more. We don't know anything about Kansas City. You know, good luck. So he went, he opened his restaurants. He spent $80,000 in 3 months on radio ads and lost 30% in sales over that 3 months. It's pulling his hair out. What did I do wrong? I need your guys' help. Can you look at this? Well, because he was a franchise, he was limited on his creative. So the radio commercial was corporate provided. He couldn't change it. Okay? So he was limited by that. So we looked at the media buy and we said, well, your local agency bought the top 3 radio stations in the market. Looks to be a good buy. What do you think the top 3 radio stations in Kansas City are? Country, country and western, and country. Right? Yeah. So all country stations. But Zteca was like a Chipotle, right? It's a fast casual Mexican build your own burrito type thing. So we're like, well, Bruce, we don't know what to tell you. It looks like they made a decent media buy. Maybe, you know, country and western isn't what your customers listen to, but we need to find out. So we created a survey. This is 15 years ago, paper and pencil on a clipboard. And we collected 500 surveys in every restaurant over a very short period of time while people were standing in line. And we asked people, do you subscribe to the local newspaper? Do you listen to the radio? If you do listen to the radio, do you listen in the morning, midday, afternoon? And what are your 3 favorite radio stations? Right? Just asked. Gathered up all that data, did all the crosstabs, manually tabulated because it was paper and pencil back then. We have them on iPads now. It's way better. And what we discovered is that the country and radio stations didn't index amongst that target audience at all. The people that had found the Zteca brand and liked the Zteca brand were classic rock listeners. and adult contemporary, but mostly rock and classic rock. And those stations in Kansas City were number 7, 8, and 9, right? They weren't the top 3 stations. They were lower rating stations. So we call the radio stations and we say, we have this client, they want to be on your station, but you don't rank very high. They didn't know in our survey they ranked number 1, 2, and 3, right? They just know that by Nielsen and Arbitron, by our industry standards, they rank low. So they put together really competitive pricing because they really wanted this buy. So we got really good rates, and we ran the same radio commercial because we didn't have any flexibility on that. And we regained that 30% back on $30,000, not $80,000, and then pushed him ahead in the 3-month span. We gained back the 30 and then pushed ahead 18. So what this really taught us was you have to do, to be the most efficient and effective with your money, do your own research. Ask your own customer questions. You can do it as easily as SurveyMonkey, right? There's tools out there. We have a really sophisticated proprietary tool, but there's other tools available. You can do paper and pencil for all that matters. But if you've got a database or you've got customers sitting in a restaurant, ask them some questions. What do you watch TV? Do you read the local paper? Did a coupon drive you in today? Would a coupon drive you in more? Where else do you dine? Where else do you shop? What are questions that you would like to have answered? You take that data and create a profile of your current customers, and then you just go find more people just like them, right? Birds of a feather, right? That's the strategy. So on page 12 in your workbook, these are the types of things that you want to look at. It's not about you. We have clients tell us all the time, oh, I don't watch the news. Okay, but I'm telling you that your customers watch the news, so we're going to put your TV commercial in the news, right? Or whatever it might be. It's not about you. You might not be your customer. So you want to know maybe what media your customers consume if you're a media buyer, if you buy media. How do you know it's the most efficient buy? You need to ask. Do your messages resonate? What do your customers care about? Are you talking to them about something you sell, but do they even care? What do they care about? What are your customer attitudes towards your brand or your business? Or your competitors' brands? Ask them. And then what are your customer preferences? What are things that they like? What are things they don't like? What are the things they like about you? Right? It's just a simple matter of asking good questions and pulling that data together. Some questions, I have a little worksheet here. I'm getting close on time, so I'm going to give that to you as homework. To think about questions you would like to have answered about your customers. And think about your current outreach activity. What is your current marketing, sales, outreach activity? Ask them what social media they use, how often they use it. Oh, I have some results on here. I forgot about this. Oh, this is profiling is not a bad word. We use it all the time. This is an example. So this is a restaurant. We represent actually a restaurant chain. Is this a specific location? This is for the San Jose location. And what we do is after the customers are seated, we deliver one iPad to the table. And the person that made the decision to come to the restaurant is the person that has to complete the survey. And we ask them to complete the survey. And we ask them a lot of questions. So this is the report. So we had 299 surveys. They were short one, that restaurant. Gender breakdown, female, male, and would not disclose. Very often it is the woman that makes the decision to go to that restaurant. So that's what the breakdown is here. You can see here the age demographic is 25 to 40 is pretty high. It's a lot of good information here. This is how far they've come. How close do you live or work to the restaurant? We have 11% that live out of town that come to the San Jose location. But most of them live within a 10-mile radius. Now in Fresno, I don't know about your patterns, but I wouldn't drive 10 miles to go to dinner. I'm typically looking for a more convenient location, but you have to remember this is San Jose, right? And so this is the commuter area. So they're going to travel more than 10 miles. So what does that mean for my marketing? That means I can't just focus on the 3 to 5 mile radius that you normally would focus on, right, for a restaurant. And then we do some zip code breakdowns so we can do some penetration. If I want to do direct mail or if I want to do some other types of drops, I can do that by their zip codes. This happens to be a restaurant chain owned in part by Guy Fieri. What brought them into Johnny Garlic's? I'm a Guy Fieri fan. Okay? Okay. That seems to be like a given, right? But when we do our surveys, we mix these up. So every person taking the survey doesn't see them in the same order, so that you don't get people just always picking the first one. But we sorted them here, so they're sorted by priority. And then location convenience. So apparently driving 10 miles is convenient in San Jose. It's all perspective, right? Regular stop to have a meal. Not very many people are coming for special offers or have a coupon or coming to watch a game or whatever. This is really interesting. This was really telling, actually throughout the entire chain. How often do you eat at Johnny Garlic's? 35% in San Jose. It's their first time at Johnny Garlic's. Why is that important? That means the marketing team is doing our job of driving new trial. It's the business's job to keep that customer coming back, right? You have to deliver operationally. Right? Get them coming back more than one time. This is a huge opportunity. If I could get 30% of my customers to come back one more time that month, I'm going to get an 8% bump in sales automatically. Huge opportunity. How do I incentivize them to come back? Maybe I just slip a little coupon in their receipt thing, right? You can order business card coupons online for $20 now. They're cheap, right? Print a little thing. Thanks for coming in. Love to have you come back. Here's 10% off your next offer, right? Just a gesture. Ask them to come back. And then these people that only come a few times per year, that is a price issue because the cost per person is a little high. And then how many times do they eat out per month? They're eating out a lot for lunch and dinner. So there's huge opportunities for us to get these customers to come back. What would influence you to come back? Well, they want lower prices, coupons, and discounts. That's kind of a natural one. They want better drink and food options. That's a menu issue, right? And then a closer location. These are the radio stations. 95% listen to the radio, not Pandora, not Sirius. They're listening to the radio, terrestrial radio. 61% do listen to online radio. That's normally at their desk. We have deeper dives, and most of that's Pandora. But this tells us how many people are listening to these radio stations. It gives us a really good indicator. So this particular station right here that has 28% of our customers listen to that radio station, it is not the #1 station in the market. Favorite daytime shows? Food Network. Imagine that. They're Guy Fieri fans, right? And their favorite evening shows? Food Network. So guess what the media buy is? Guy Fieri in a commercial on the Food Network. Seems pretty intuitive and simple, right? But prior to doing the surveys, it didn't scream at us necessarily. Here's what they're watching local news, what stations they're watching. Do they have cable or satellite? What are they watching? Food Network. Do they stream television? They watch Netflix. Can't do local insertions on Netflix, so that's not an advertising opportunity, but it's good to know. Internet usage, where are they going? They're going to Yahoo, and then they're going to San Jose Mercury News. Only 18% going to Google. We were blown away. It's not what you expect, right? My client, we don't need to do Facebook. 88% of your customers are using, oh, no, that's not the right number. Social media, how often? Very often, 55%. Somewhat, 28%. Only 17% never, and they're on Facebook. Some on Instagram, Pinterest. How they get their news? Only 16% of guests subscribe to the local newspaper. Why would you do newspaper? You wouldn't. I will tell you though, we have a bank client and like 85% of their customers subscribe to the local newspaper. Then you do newspaper advertising, right? So it just depends. How do they want to receive information about Johnny Garlic's? Email. 75% said they want email. When everybody's email boxes are full, our customers said they want email. So we went from 1 email a month to 2. We are now segueing into 1 a week. I'm a little nervous, but that's how the client said they want more email from us. How would you know otherwise? I wouldn't have done more email had this survey not come out. That's why you ask questions. These are our recommendations. You don't need to read that part.
Can I stop you right there just for a second? Your
I know you're running tight on time. The survey that you did there has a fair number of questions. How do you get cooperation?
Cooperation?
Yeah, I realize the person sitting down, you hand them an iPad, but how do you actually get them to go through and answer all 20 questions?
A, people love to give their opinion. And B, we offer an incentive so they can have a half off an appetizer or a dessert instant on that ticket that night. It happens to be in a restaurant on this one. Sometimes we have clients that do the surveys that it's not that easy to do an incentive, so we do a daily drawing for a Starbucks gift card or something like that. We had a jewelry client gave away $100 certificates to jewelry in the store. So just depends.
As a general rule, what do you find has worked best for you?
In terms of incentives?
Yeah. I recognize in a restaurant makes sense, but generally speaking, is there something that you're finding works better for you than other things?
Not really. Yeah. Methodology does matter. Right? So if we're doing a customer intercept with an iPad, we're going to have the highest success rate at getting that survey completion. Very often, that's not a true opportunity. So like for our bank client, they don't have really enough foot traffic, on a daily basis they're a business bank, so they don't have like tons of customers coming in throughout the day. So it would take me forever to collect, a couple hundred surveys. So we did an email. So we emailed their customer database with a link, and the link went to the survey. And we just did $100 to Ruth Chris gift card incentives, and we did a daily drawing over a 7-day period of time. And we were surprised. I mean, we got the numbers that we needed to get in a week. And you hope to get your target in about 7 to 10 days to get enough participants. We also will do conquest lists. So what I've talked to you today is about profiling your existing customers. Sometimes you want to profile potential customers. And then that's another little angle. You have to purchase a database and then send an email out. You could stand with your iPad in front of your competitor's location. See how long you get away with that. I haven't done that yet, but it might be fun to try. Yeah, or wherever the easement is, right? Yeah. That's fun. Okay, let's talk about investment. This is always a big question I get. How much should I spend on my marketing? So I made a little worksheet for you. So just give this some thought. So the first number you want to start with is your gross sales. What are they today? Or what do you want them to be? What are you trying to grow into? Okay? So you take that number, and then you look anywhere between 3 and 12%, and that's a huge gap, right? So the 3% would be, I'm an established business, don't have a lot of competitors in my space, or you may have some other impeding factors. You may be making some large equipment purchases that year, or facility purchases, or whatever, so you're looking at scaling your marketing plan, and so maybe you're looking at 3%. 5%, usually you're looking at somebody who maybe you have a little bit marketplace competition, or maybe you're launching something new. You're launching a new product, you need to make a little additional investment. Maybe you're rebranding, got to make a little additional investment. 8% is typically a really competitive marketplace, and you're needing to spend to survive. 12% is often a startup or a brand new business, and you're having to do that investment marketing. We see a lot of startup businesses that don't plan for this. And so they go and get their business loan or whatever it is that they're financing. They're putting their financing package together, and they've figured out their operational cost and their facility cost and maybe a little bit of operational cash, and they haven't really thought about the marketing piece. And you really have to think about that piece because you really have to infuse that first year. You're doing a lot of foundational building your first year. And then what we like to do, this is our rule of thumb. I don't know why these things are all jacked up. They look good in your workbook on page 13. We at JP, we have our own rule of thumb. So once you've determined what your budget is, and I would do all the calculations and then figure out what you're comfortable with and what you can live with, right? Don't start at 8% and then after 3 months go, oh, I can't sustain this. I can only do 3, right? Pick a number you can live with and sustain. Okay? Then take that budget and say, how much of it is 80%? and 80% should be the outreach piece. Getting a message to a customer. That's TV, that's maybe you wrap up your outbound sales in your numbers, that's print ads, that's direct mail, that's digital, that's your website. Anything that's coming in direct contact with your customer is outreach, okay? Or potential customer. Newsletters, anything, direct contact. 20% should be your rule of thumb for development. So that's making the commercial, making the ad, doing the creative, paying consulting fees, anything that would be in the development piece. This is a rule of thumb. Not all of our clients are at the 80-20 mark. You know, sometimes if we have to build a lot of tools, you know, if we have to start from scratch with TV commercials or radio commercials or whatever, or we're rebranding, maybe that development number is a little higher than 20%. But it's a rule of thumb, because what you don't want to do is the opposite, right? This is just a check and balances. What you don't want to do is spend 80% in fees and making a cool commercial. We had a client, this is one of my favorite stories. They worked with Ogilvy and Mather in New York, and they spent $1 million for a 30-second commercial, which is not unheard of in New York, right? For a national company. And they put the TV commercial on the air, and so they spent $1 million on the TV commercial, and they had $1 million for the media buy, which isn't a lot, right, for a national media buy. And it ran for a month, and nothing happened. Didn't get phone calls, didn't get web hits, it, quote, didn't work. So they're in a state of panic. And we were already a vendor, but we were one of their lesser vendors because we were not Ogilvy and Mather. And for those of you that don't know, they're kind of the big guys. They're a big company. So they came to us and they said, our campaign's not working, we're in a panic, we need a new campaign. And so we made a television commercial for them for $75,000, which is a lot for the local market, but not for it's peanuts for the national stage. And I think they spent about $250,000 to put it on the air for 30 days to test it, and it started working. Why? Because my ROI threshold was much lower, right? If you spend 80% of your budget to build that commercial and you don't have enough money to get it in front of people, your metrics are wrong, right? So this is just checks and balances. I'm almost done. Measurement. This is really important. So one of my favorite current sayings right now is you can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't measure it or even know how to measure it or even know what you're measuring, you certainly can't manage it. So what is it that we're measuring, right? Let's talk about it. I have a few suggestions. So what I told you before about your media planning and your messaging, and I said that's not about you. This is all about you. You get to dictate this. This is 100% about what is important to you, okay? What are we measuring? Are we measuring gross sales? Are we measuring gross profit? We have clients, they don't want to necessarily drive the top line, it's the profit that matters, right? How do we fix that? Maybe you're looking at net profit. Maybe employee retention is a measurement, or your employee or full-time employee growth. Reputation management. Let's measure that. Let's work on that. Or satisfaction, your customer satisfaction results. Maybe we want to measure your digital traffic or your click-through rate. How many people are clicking through your ads? What's your web traffic look like? How many visits are you getting? How much time are they spending? How many views are you getting? Maybe you want to build your customer database. Maybe you want to grow your customer database by 10%. Maybe you want to increase purchase frequency, right? Maybe you want to increase customer referrals or customer engagement. How are you going to measure that? What does that look like? Maybe you need to reduce errors or reduce your cost of goods or reduce overhead. These are all measurable things. There's more, but these are just to kind of get you started. If any of these resonate, write them down. What might be some measurable goals that would be important to you, right, that all of this activity points to, right? So if you're doing outreach efforts or you're doing social media efforts or you're doing advertising efforts, you're protecting your brand, it should be pointing towards something. Why? Why? What's important to you here? And this can change. You can set the goals for this year and next year the goals can be different. But what's important to you? Maybe write a few of them down on page 14. And then how are you going to measure these? Right? So on your workbook, on the left-hand side, you're going to write down what that measurable goal is. Then on the right-hand side, how are you going to measure it? What are you using? You're using QuickBooks because that's what you're looking at, gross sales, reputation management. Are you using your Google and Facebook reviews? And you're averaging a 3 right now, and you're shooting for a 4.5. What is the goal? And how are you going to measure it? And then the most important thing on your book is to communicate your goal to the team. I don't think I have a slide about that. No. I have it in the middle. So a little personal story. I'm pretty transparent with my company. Share with the team sort of what's going on. But last year, in we had been sort of static in sales, for a couple of years. Just doing fine, but not great. It's good, just holding our own. And I woke up one day in February last year, and I was like, you know what? We can do better. And all of a sudden, I got focused on gross sales. Right? Because the rest will fall out, right? Everything else will come out of that. But I want to drive the top line. So I set a goal and shared it with the team. We sat down, we brainstormed, we had a big retreat, we talked about how we were going to grow sales, we talked about what those things we were going to do, how we were going to improve our processes, how we were going to make it happen. Our goal was 20% growth last year. And when you share it with the team and you're transparent with the information and you tell them exactly how we're going to measure it, it's crazy what happens. We hit 44%. Crazy, right? So what did we do? So I said we're going to do 20% a year. I have a couple team members here right now. They're like clenching. We're going to do 20% a year for 5 years. That was my original goal. Well, we hit 44. So we almost hit the second year goal, right? So what did I do? I reset the base, right? So why not? So as a team, we decided we'll reset the base and we'll go for another 20% this year. And everybody's excited and fired up and we know exactly how we're measuring it. But guess what? This year we added the profit piece. So now we're looking at gross 20% and profit 20%, right? So let's grow that 20% and let's retain that 20%. And that's our new goal. And every month we report out to the whole team exactly where we are, how we're doing it, how it's happening, and every time we're improving our processes to make it happen. It's amazing what happens when you share, when you have the right people on your team. Last, assignment. This is a big, big, big piece. We've talked about a lot today. If any of this is important to you, you have to have somebody in your organization own it, right? So you have this piece. You have this piece, you have this piece, right? And they own those pieces. So in your workbook on page 15, and you don't have to do it now, but I would highly encourage you to go back to your teams and go through each of those things and say, okay, I'm going to work on identification. I'm going to work on my elevator pitch, and I'm going to work on applying it across everything that we do. Who's on that team? Who owns that piece? Who's going to make sure that gets done? Because it's too much for one person or one owner to get done, right? You're going to go through all these pages. All of the tasks are on here. Assign somebody to be the owner or a team to be the owner of these items. And it'll get done. I promise you it'll get done. So if you flip through, I think I'm missing a page. Oh, no, here it is. I'm sorry, I don't have my presentation mode. I'm totally lost. Who is doing what? Here's people you can choose from for your assignments. You can be the person. You can have internal team members, you can have family members, maybe freelancers, maybe there's a specialty firm, maybe there's a specialty firm that only does social media and you decide you're going to outsource that piece and you have them do that piece, or maybe you utilize a full service agency to plug in, maybe not all the items, but maybe a few items, right? So these are people you can pull from to help you get these tasks done. Remember what I said at the beginning? None of this is brain surgery and none of it's hard. It's just about doing as much of it synergistically as you can, because together, all of it starts everything moving in the right direction at the same time together, right? Again, not brain surgery. It's hard to be analytical in your marketing. It's a very easy thing to be emotional about, so I challenge you to be analytical, be brave, do something different, do something you haven't done before, be consistent. That's a big message today. Start it and see it to the finish line. That's why all these assignments need somebody who's an owner of the assignment, and then be diligent. Try to make it a priority. Try to be diligent and do a little bit every day or every week. Set your milestones for yourself. Okay, I'm way past my timeline. I will stay to answer questions. Thank you for coming.